Cambodia for the last 30 years or so. Reasons being costs, vis-a-vis the services and the personnel. I find it very competitive, and also the doctors who attend to me are knowledgeable in so many problems that I suffer from.
We have a wide range of inpatient and outpatient services, including accidents and emergencies, offering services for both children and adults.
Very beautiful amber parking. I do not think we have many hospitals to compare with their services in this country. Mata is the best place to go.
Mata Misericordia Hospital. You matter to us.
Hello there, very warm good morning and welcome to the Health Discourse, your trusted space for open, honest and empowering conversations on health, and especially the ones that touch the most on our lives. Now, today we dive into a topic that often sits in silence but screams for attention, that is mental health. And in a world constantly on the move, where pressure mounts from every direction, we ask ourselves, how are we really doing emotionally, psychologically and socially? Well, joining us in this conversation on mental health this Monday morning is none other than a woman who has been at the front line of this critical conversation, Martha Wamongu Kilonzo, a seasoned counseling psychologist and an advocate for mental health. So, good morning, Martha. Karibu sana.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Yes, good to see you. I can see you are donning on your brand colors.
Yes.
Please tell our viewer where you come from and what you do at Mata Hospital.
So good morning, viewers, and thank you, Elizabeth, for having me here. My name is Martha, as you've heard, Kilonzo, a counseling psychologist at Mata Misericordia Hospital. That is where I practice for the last few years, but I'm a seasoned counseling psychologist. I've been practicing for the last 8 years. Yeah, so I do it with a passion, and I'm very glad to be here.
Great. We are also very pleased to have you. Thank you for making time for this conversation. And of course, as usual, we give you time to weigh in on the conversation. Our number is 0717-424866. You can as well drop your comments, your questions, anything about mental health, and we shall get Martha to respond to you as and when the time allows. You can do that on our social media platform. Use the hashtag Health Discourse. Now, let's begin, Martha, by understanding when we talk of mental health, especially in the context of our times in 2025, you know, we have Gen Zs, we have the Generation Alpha, and then there is the most recent one, the new one. What exactly are we referring to, and how has our understanding shifted over time?
Okay, well, thank you for that good question. So when we're talking about mental health, it's a complex issue. But again, as we normally use the statistics by the WHO, which is the World Health Organizations, they describe mental health as a state of well-being, whereby individuals are able to cope with their mental stresses, they're able to work and even live. They're able to realize their potentials and also live with the stressors that are taking place and at the same time live in a community well-being. So all these, again, we're not leaving out the physical, the emotional and the social well-being of an individual. So when these things are not well maintained or they're not well checked on, an individual is left to be stressed or not living well in a community. And there are different ways in which the mental health affects one. So it either affects through the emotions, how one is feeling, how one is behaving, and even how they are feeling. So it's wild, as we see now, it's a complex thing as far as mental health is concerned.
So it's possible for someone to confuse it with something else?
Yes, yes. It is possible to confuse it. Again, there are different terms that are used to describe it. So one you'd see, or rather you'd hear out there saying that they're mentally disturbed. In most cases, maybe it's just a normal stress or even it's an anxiety, or even a burnout. So you find if one is not conversant with this state of well-being, not being able to realize their full potential, and even being able to produce or even to live in the community well, then it affects how they are behaving. And we find that, again, according to the WHO, the statistics, 1 in 8 worldwide, they will suffer with mental disorder. 1 in 8. And then even as we bring it down, 1 in 4 people, they will live or they will experience a mental disorder in their life. So I don't know how many we are here, just you can imagine.
So we are more than 4, I think, if we factor in those who are behind the scenes.
Yes.
So amongst us,
1 in 4
might be grappling with mental health. Oh, yes. And then, of course, the World Health Organization also estimates that 1.9 million Kenyans live with depression, which is a part of the mental health issues that we are grappling with. So when we speak about mental health, what are these types of mental health conditions commonly affecting Kenyans today?
They're quite a range, they're quite many, but allow me to mention but a few. So we have the depression, which is the leading one in Kenya. So even coming down to Kenya. So you find that most of the youth and the adolescents, they are very subjected to this depression. And this is the mood disorder, which has some symptoms which are persistent. It's not like just today you've woken up, you don't feel like going to work, you don't feel like associating with your colleagues. You describe yourself or even you diagnose yourself as having depression. No, this is a persistent mood disorder which has been asked to be there for quite some time, like 2 weeks, monthly, or henceforth. That is one of them. So the next one is anxiety disorder. So when we're talking about anxiety disorders, these are the persistent worries, persistent panic attacks. And we have the generalized anxiety. We also have the social anxiety. When you're talking about the social anxiety, this is whereby individuals are excessively worried about social interactions. They tend even to withdraw. They tend to hide. Then we have the panic attack. Again, the excess worries. Maybe you're just late for work. You are late for commuting. All these. And so if they are persistent, it becomes a concern. That is the anxiety disorder. Then we have another one which we call the bipolar. Again, this is very rampant. This is what we call about, we are talking about the extreme mood. Sometimes they are high, sometimes they are low. And so when they are high, we call it maniac. And then it's low, this is the depressed. So you find that you cannot diagnose yourself. You have also to see a professional person so that they can be able to screen that and assess that and rule it out. And this is it's a bipolar condition. And there are different causes I believe we'll be able to check through as we go through. We also have personality disorders. Again, when you're talking about personality disorder, these are, just to mention the examples, we have like issues, the personalities like borderline. So you find the borderline personalities, they have issues with themselves. So it's either, they are either extreme or they are very lenient with what they are doing. We also have the narcissists who find that, yes, it is a key common terms which is really being used everywhere. So you find these are individuals who are having extreme either burnouts or even outbursts. So they just want, they are very irritable or they are just doing things to gratify themselves. So if the individuals that they're living with them, they're not able to identify this is an issue, then it becomes a concern to the society. Then we also have substance use. Again, this one is very key and very common among the youth. They remember the use of alcohol and any other substance abuses. Why is it so? Because they are readily available. Just to mention but a few,
Yeah, sure. Thank you for that. And it's like you read my mind. I was just about to ask about narcissism, if it can be categorized under mental health conditions. Now, for the person watching, you know, we are living in fast-paced world, so many pressures left, right, and center. You're trying to balance, juggling so many things. How can one differentiate between normal upheavals, normal ups and downs, and a deeper mental health concern?
The normal one, as you're saying, we are living in a fast world where things are just fast and things are happening very fast. So you find if it's a normal one, these are the temporary mood swings, or rather temporary moods. It's not persistent. They're just like one-off. Like the example that I'm giving, like today you may find students who are just preparing for exams. So that one in itself gives them stress. So they're not able to maybe prepare adequately, or they're feeling anxious because they don't know what will happen. Now, when it is not persistent, when it's just that temporary mood, that one now we call it, it is a normal one. But now when it becomes escalated, persistent, like after a week, after 2 weeks, after a month, then now this one we need interventions and we need treatment so that we are able to differentiate between the two. Yes.
Now let's plow deeper into the causes and symptoms and signs. What are the root causes of mental health challenges? Are they more biological, environmental, social, or spiritual?
Wow. I think you're even answering as you answer that. Yeah, because you find most of the mental health conditions, they are biological. And when you're talking about biological, they are the genetic. Some run in families. But it doesn't mean that because maybe a parent has a depression, the children will also go through the same. But what we are saying is that it's genetic because it runs in family. So you find there's some characteristics, there's some signs that when an individual starts to exhibit them, high chances are it could be generational. So we also have the neuro, we call them the neurotransmitters, the functions in the brain. So you find there's that disconnect of the brain. So they're not able to function well, they're not able to connect well, the concentration and the like. So that is one of the biological. And then we also have the imbalances, the hormone imbalances. So when you're talking about the hormone imbalances, in most cases, especially in puberty, when we're having the change of hormones and the like, one can be subjected because again, this is a new thing. This is a new sign. This is a new change that is happening in the body. Again, when we're having pregnancy, that trimester, especially the first trimester, if one is not careful, again, this one could lead to mental health conditions. And the common one, which normally happens after birth, is the postpartum depression. Again, when you're going, an individual, and mostly women, when they are going through the premenopause stages, the imbalances again in the body could cause an issue. So this is more of biological. And then when you're talking about the physical, not the physical, the environment. So when you're talking about the environment, it's the early childhood upbringing. What were you subjected to even as you were growing up? So you find there are those children who grow up in families, I would call them the dysfunctional families. So if they're having issues, maybe the parents or even the caregiver who is interacting with this immediate child, that one is a recipient of these mental health disorders. They may not appear immediately, but remember they appear even as the baby or the child grows up. So that is the environmental factors. Again, we also have life stressors. You're not able to meet your daily life in a comprehensive way. So what happens when you're doing this? That daily stress will culminate, will even make you feel depressed or even have other social anxiety, panics. So you find if one is not careful, those are some of the things that one may encounter. So when you're talking about that is the environment. Social, how are you interacting? How are you relating even with the people that you're associating with? There's those people who are just irritable all through. So that one on itself is also a sign or even a cause. We have socially, there's another one I'm forgetting. Then we also have the spiritual. So the spiritual is lack of purpose, meaning of faith. And you can bear me witness, currently we're having so many religions. So if one is not keen on which one to go for, you find you'll always be looking for purpose in different, I would call them different denominations. And
so this can be a precursor for mental health conditions.
Yes, yes. And then if you're not careful, what happens, because there's a need that you want to gratify. There's a need that you are looking to fit. So if it's not being felt, if it's not being fed, there's something that you're missing. So looking for a purpose to belong. So what happens? You just find yourself going down and down. And so mental issues arise as a result.
Thank you very much, especially for the interplay between spiritual and mental health. That's quite important. Now, there are always some telltale signs or rather symptoms. What should people look out for in themselves or their loved ones, especially the subtle ones that go unnoticed? Because one of the key challenge in medical diagnosis is late diagnosis. Like people present the symptoms maybe at very late stage where it's very difficult even to get the treatment modalities that are very effective. So what are these signs that we should look out for?
There are many signs, but allow me to mention the emotional ones. So you find there's lack of concentration. Could be at home or even at workplace. You've just been doing your work very well. You've not been having issues with your memory, but then all of a sudden, the concentration is not there. So you find they even tend to start now withdrawing. Again, now this is more of behavioral. So there's the irritability. They are always angry. There's the issue to do with being hopeless, helpless, and even sense of worth. Or again, they are always either nervous. So remember, again, I'm connecting them. So there's the emotional, there's the behavioral, there's the physical. When you're talking about physical, they stop even eating. And then the sleep pattern is affected. You're either sleeping or not even sleeping. Then also eating. Some will overeat and some will not even overdo it. So you find there's no balance. Then when you go to workplaces, there's the issue of not even being able to balance your work. You're either absent, reporting late to work, you are not meeting deadlines. All these are signs that the people around you, or even at a personal level, you should be able to check and see what really is happening as far as because this is not how I've been for the last 1 week, for the last 2 weeks, but something is really happening. Then they also tend to withdraw. They neglect. And then when you're talking about also the individual, you find that their personal hygiene becomes a concern. So they either don't shower, they don't want to associate with anyone, their grooming is an issue. So all these, among others, could be signs that one should be able to look at.
And does mental health struggles present differently in a home context and a workplace environment?
Yes. The only difference or the only constant thing there is the person. So you are different at home and you are different at workplace. So at workplace, at workplace there's a reduction of productivity. You find an individual is not able to perform well, or they just reduce the way they used to do or the way they used to function. And then there's also the absent. You are either reporting late, there's poor time management, and in cases where you report work, it's like you're not even performing your duties. And then you also isolate from your colleagues. You isolate from the people that associate with you. That is at workplace. Now, when you go back home, you find you're neglecting your responsibilities. If you're a mom, like now kids at home, you just find you just walk out from the home and you've not left anything. You're not even concerned what will happen. Will they eat? Will they shower? It's like it's a normal thing for you. So you just leave them. So the neglect of the responsibilities, again, the avoidance. You find an individual avoiding social gatherings, even neglecting the family of origin, and there's no communication. So when all these things are not well catered for, an individual's life is affected at home and even in their workplaces. And you find they're not even associating with the community. They also stop going to church. Maybe this was a church person. They excommunicate themselves from going to church. If just even in the neighborhood, they don't want anything to do with that.
Thank you very much, Martha. My director says it's time to take a breather, but we'll be right back with more. We shall be debunking some of the myths surrounding mental health and, of course, looking at one of the most common misunderstood aspects of mental health, that is stress. So stay tuned.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Aisha Wankio, and Mata is my #1 hospital. My encounter at Mata Hospital was actually so far my best, because you see, when you enter the doctor's room, the doctor is just ready to listen. The doctor is warm. The doctor is kind.
We have a wide range of inpatient and outpatient services, including accidents and emergencies, offering services for both children and adults.
And I would wish young people could come here too, so that they could feel how I felt. That's why I keep coming to Mata over and over and over. Their services, top notch.
Mata Misericordia Hospital. You matter to us.
Amri za Mungu. Ndimi Bwana Mungu wako. Usiabudu miungu wengine. Usilitaje bure jina la Mungu wako. Shika kitakatifu siku ya Mungu. Waheshimu baba na mama, upate miaka mingi na heri duniani. Usiue. Usizini. Usiibe. Usiseme uongo. Usitamani mwanamke asiye mke wako. Usitamani mali ya mtu mwingine. Amri za Mungu.
Kupata
amri za Mungu.
Kama sikiza tune yako, bonyeza neno sikiza likifuatwa na nambari 738-10251.
Already.
All right, welcome back, and we are glad that you're keeping tabs with us. This is Mental Health Discourse with me, Sasha Elizabeth, being the second session, and in studio I have Martha Kilonzo from Mata Misericordia Hospital, who is a counseling psychologist. And as I promised, I can see Kemonto Teresa is saying she's following. I don't know where you are, Teresa. Have you had any of the types of mental health? Maybe from a loved one or yourself. How did it go? Talk to us on 0717-424-866. Welcome back to our second session, Martha.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
And as we promised, could you please share some of the most common misconceptions and stigmas surrounding mental health that we need to debunk?
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you again for that question. So we find that commonly mental health are rare. That is what they say. It's rare. But you find that there are very many, and they are currently we are experiencing so many of them. It's not just depression. It's not bipolar. It's not panic attacks. There are quite many. And then the other misconception is that when one is having a mental health, they are seen as sinners in our country. So again, this is not true, because it can affect anyone. Remember our statistics: 1 out of 10, 1 in 8 in lifetime, they will experience a mental disorder, or even 1 in 4, they will at one point in their life experience a mental health disorder. So these again are just misconceptions. Again, we also find that they normally say people struggling with mental health issues are violent, which is not true. In most cases, you find the people living with mental issues are most subjected to violence. So these, among others, these are just misconceptions. And the fact that one is going through mental health issues doesn't make them less of it's not a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
Yes, that is a strength on itself. The fact that one has been able to recognize it, the fact that one is able to look for support and for help, it is a sign of their strength. Yeah.
I think the fact the very last misconception that somebody with mental health is a weak person. This makes most of them to keep silent and refrain from seeking support, and that's why we've been witnessing the aftermath when it gets now to the boiling point. And now let's transition to stress. I think most medical articles have quoted it as the silent epidemic, quote unquote. And many people casually say, I'm stressed. But what does that really mean? What types of stress are we dealing with today? And how can we tell when it becomes harmful or detrimental to one's health?
Okay. Again, as you said, that is the most commonly misused word, stress. So any other time you feel I'm stressed, and it's not like that is it. But in most cases, you find this stress is a body response to an external pressure or even an external demand. And I think I gave an example whereby maybe you're preparing for your exams. That's stress in itself. That's already a pressure that requires you to go and prepare for your exams. But because you've not prepared, or even you're panicking, on itself, it is a body responses. So we have different types of stress. We have the short ones and the long one. The short one is the acute stress. So you find if you're having the acute stress, this is shortly. Again, because of either commuting to work or even the daily hassles. On itself, as long as they're not persistent, as long as they're not prolonged, then this is just a short-lived. Then we have the chronic ones. These ones now are the long bodies respond. You find if you're having issues, and issues could be many. We have maybe relationship issues, we have children issues, we have parenting styles. So if one is not able to go through this, the constant fear, and it's prolonged, maybe after a week, 2 weeks, then it becomes a chronic. Then we also have another type of stress, which we call the traumatic stress. Now, this one is escalated as a result of an event that an individual has gone through. And it could be a natural disaster, it could be an accident, it could be abuse or even child abuse, or even one has gone through that traumatic event. So when not handled well, it escalates to something we call PTSD, that is a post-traumatic stress disorder. So if it is not handled from the initial stages, you find that an individual is going to be going through all this. And so once this is not done, now it becomes burnout. And when you're talking about burnout, now this is the overwhelming experiences. You just want to release it. You just want to talk it or even to shout. Now it becomes an issue when it is an every other day thing.
So could this anxiety and burnout escalate to a more serious?
Yes, they do. Now, remember again, you're saying if it is not short-lived, but now if it is escalated, if it is persistent, it becomes an issue. Now from stress, now it moves to depression, or even it moves to panic attack, depending on which level the stress is. Yeah.
Thank you. Now I can see here Brayo from Kanyinyai says, I'm a missionary in Ruchu Parish. Greetings to the parishioners of Ruchu Parish, Brayo. We have Jacinta Wanjiku says, I'm live from Nyandarua, a good show. Thank you, Jacinta. Sir Henry, maybe I'll give you your message just before we wrap up the conversation, but keep your messages coming if you have any questions on mental health. We will be glad to address that here with Martha. Could you break down the different types of stress and what triggers each briefly?
Okay. Again, I think I also mentioned them, but it's okay, I can still go through. So we have two types of stresses. One is the external and the internal. So the external, this is mostly either because of workload or because of the daily hassles. And then as a result, now we also have the internal stressors. Internal stressors, these are maybe someone is living beyond their means. They're not able to meet their daily life. And now as a result, now you go to the acute stress. When you're talking about the acute stress, this is the short-lived one. It's not persistent. It is just a one-off thing. Either because of, today I'm not able to get my daily bread, and so as a result, I feel stress. That external pressure, that external demand that I need to. But now when you're talking about the chronic, this is the long-term stress, either because of the job insecurity, lack of employment, maybe there are students who have issues with school loans. Now it's long. It's long. How else can I be able to cope with this? And then the other one, which I mentioned, is the traumatic stress. Remember, again, the traumatic stress is caused by events that have happened, either mostly because of the external pressures, the external demands. And if it's not well catered for, then now it leads to post-traumatic stress disorder.
Thank you. There's quite a lot on stress, but allow me to transition to the modern influences because of time. We are living in a digital space, and sometimes it's sort of physically isolated, but virtually more connected in that way. So social media, economic pressures, and the post-pandemic realities have changed, you know, how we live, how we interact, and how we feel. What modern factors are impacting on our mental wellness in ways that might not even, we might not notice ourselves?
We have, again, the role of media, whereby we are finding that all this information about mental health is readily or even easily accessible. So you find at the flip, it is just there. So all this information is there, and so as a result, the awareness of mental health is really rampant. And you also find that many organizations are currently now bringing in the aspect of mental health, either creating the awareness or even bringing on board people who can be able to speak about it. So that is one, the role. Again, the issue to do with the increased awareness in our society. So you find there are outreaches which are happening. Again, the government is also coming in place, being able to just sensitize the public more about mental health issues. So this in itself is decreasing the stigma and making sure that people are even aware of what is happening.
Now, are we seeing mental health crisis among young people, especially the Gen Zs and millennials? What could be the reason? What do we attribute this to?
Yes, it's there and it's real. Again, it's not only the millennium and the Gen Zs, it's quite wider. It cuts across because, again, it's affecting the children, it's affecting the adolescents, and it's also affecting the adulthood. So it is not just cutting across those two. So you find, because of the social media, it's real doing a good job as far as passing information. And so you find if one is struggling with a mental issue, they don't have even visit. But first, before that, they are able to see, what is this stress? What am I feeling? What are some of the challenges that I'm going through as an individual? So that is the role of the social media. Again, when we go through, we are having the economic uncertainty. You find that this generation, because of job insecurities, because of social life expectations, so you find these mental issues, they are going to be very rampant as far as these generations are concerned. Again, the issues to do with loneliness. You find they're just those who are loners, and especially in the rural areas, they're just alone. They're not able even to access either the information, or they're not even in a place whereby they can look and say, this is what probably I'm going through. So those are among some of the factors that we can check.
Yeah, the challenge of digital divide and double digital divide. But we cannot also, Martha, overlook the aspect, the other flip side of social media, which also comes with cyberbullying. When you ask a question, then people joke about it. It sort of exacerbates somebody's situation or condition. They feel like maybe somebody is taking them for granted.
Again, when maybe put a disclaimer, when one is going through the social media, you just need to minimize your expectations, because I think people out there are hurting, and so they are also looking for someone to hurt. So it's upon the individuals who are going through this social media. As much as you are looking for information, are you having some limitations? It doesn't mean that everything that you see there again is right. Remember again, what we see on the social media is not the real, or it's not the reality of everything. So even as you get information about the mental health, can you sieve? What do I take in and what do I not take in? So are you having like those boundaries to know this is to the extent that I can be able to take in what the social media is saying about the mental health?
Absolutely. And then people walk around with baggages, very heavy loads emotionally, and they're just looking for somebody, somewhere where to offload it. Let's look at some of the solutions and support systems that are available. When or at what point should one seek professional help? And should this come from a psychologist like yourself, a psychiatrist, or a counselor?
Thank you. That's a valid question. Again, when you're looking at where to seek help, or rather, how do I seek help? At what point do I recognize that I am having a challenge, I'm going through an issue? In most cases, in a layman's language, you'd find that this person is helpless, is hopeless, you are worthless, you just feel it. Those are persistent feelings. Those are persistent signs that one needs to seek for help. So, and then again, you're also isolating yourself. You know, again, we are able to assess ourselves. You know, this is not who I am. I'm this jovial, maybe a child, but in the process, you just find that you are isolating. There's nothing that makes sense to you. You're not eating. Your grooming has changed. All these are factors that one needs to seek help. So where do you seek help? There are counselors who mostly deal with the emotional and psychological support. When we have the psychologists who come in out, they're able to assess and even offer the therapy that one needs. Then we have psychiatric, and these are help that are even available at Mater Hospital. So you find the psychiatric who are going to be able to assess what you're going through, and even as they assess what you're going through, they give you the therapy talk, and at the same time, they also give you medication. Then you also have another group, which is, I would say, kind of a bit silent. The social workers. The social workers, they also come in handy. They're able to mobilize, even bring in issues to do with supporting the community. So they involve the chief, the community workers, that is the CHVs. So don't die with these because you're feeling like you're less of a person. Remember, you're saying it's not a weakness, it's a sign of strength. So all these, one is able to identify. And even before then, it's also good to talk to your friends, a trusted friend, not everyone, a trusted person, so that you can be able to see, because they know you, even at a family level. They know how you've been behaving, they know how you've been feeling. They also can be able to tell how the behaviors are coming along. So talk to someone, then if that is not done, then now you can be able now to seek the professional help.
Absolutely. And I think in our time, we need not be talking about increasing cases of suicide, gender-based violence. Femicide cases have been on the rise, that the president saw it wise even to start a task force to look into it. How can churches, you know, schools, religious leaders, communities be safe spaces for mental health discourses?
Thank you for that question. Again, when you're talking about home, schools, and the community, churches, remember again, we are social beings and we belong. So at home, it's coming up with a routine. What do I normally do? What am I supposed to do on a daily basis? At churches, maybe the church is coming up with programs of educating or even counseling the community because they are readily available. And then maybe at workplace, being given the accessibility of seeking professional help so that you can be able to be guided. How best can you go through this? That is churches, home, and then getting a support system. Don't walk this journey alone. Get someone who can be able to walk with you. Then also involving groups, involving the community, it makes it easier so that you don't have to walk it alone.
And what is Mater Hospital currently doing to address mental health conditions in Kenya?
Thank you for that question. So as Mater Mesiocordial Hospital, this is what we are doing. We've partnered with different organizations as far as sharing the mental issues or even creating awareness. And like what we are doing now, we are also creating awareness through the social platforms.
That's right.
So that is one of them. There's also come up with a program of even supporting their own staff. That's why we have the counseling unit at the hospital. They also come up with programs, outreach programs, which happen, I would say in a month, we have like two programs that are running in a month. So we have the trainings, and currently we're also having a sensitization outreach, which was happening at the Nairobi University, which was more on the gender-based violence. So you find they're not just quiet. So it is all round. Again, we also have the support, whereby we have the counselors, we have the psychiatric, we have the social workers. All these, when if an individual walks in, they will not be sent away. Their issues are going to be addressed fully.
Thank you. Now, Masindano Joseph says he's tuned in. Thank you for that. Our time is quickly running by. So before we wrap up, Martha, speak directly to that person who is watching right now, and they feel low. Probably they feel anxious or mentally exhausted, but afraid to admit it, even to themselves. What's your message to the person?
So mental health is not a weakness. I think we started by saying that. So it is a strength. And the fact that one is going through that issue doesn't make them less of a person. So you need to be able to identify the social support, recognize that this is something that is really affecting you, and you need to speak it out. Seek help. Get out there and seek and talk to someone. Again, there are also those who like doing it on their own. There are those who want just to cry. It is okay to cry. But now if it becomes an issue like every other day, now that is where the issue is. So as you cry, as you seek that support, also reach out to the professional counselors, and that's where Mater Counseling, Mater Hospital comes in very handy. Yes. So the fact that you have an issue doesn't make you less of a person. It is just a way of being able to recognize what is happening.
Thank you very much, Martha. And before we close, do you have a parting short message to the people watching regarding maybe anything that is upcoming?
Thank you. So we're saying mental health is not a life sentence. Once you are diagnosed with it, there is solution. There are interventions, and then there is also the treatment. So recovery is a process. Just decide what you want, and then the rest will flow. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martha, for sharing your wisdom and for creating time for this. We really appreciate, and we wish you all the best in whatever you are doing out there. I hope you'll be available when we call upon you again in subsequent weeks. Great, because there's quite a lot. You know, mental health is a very complex and multivalent subject that requires quite a lot of time to delve into, and of course exhaust everything, including addressing some of the questions, the Q&A. So we shall create time here on Health Discourse to ensure that we exhaust everything, look at mental health in every angle, whatever it is, and then we'll get to, if possible, bring some people who have been in such situations and overcame, sought help, and now they triumphed over it, just to encourage somebody out there. Great. So thank you very much to our viewers. Remember, mental health is not a luxury. It's not a weakness, as Martha puts it. It's health, just like any other. And it deserves the attention that we accord to every other medical condition or disorder. Care and, of course, action, which is the most important thing. Let's create a culture where reaching out for help is seen as a sign of strength and not shame. And this way we'll be able to save more lives. So thank you for tuning in to the Health Discourse. And I would like to appreciate my team behind the scenes. We have Geoffrey Omare, and then on the other side of the chambers we have Frederico Chieng and Peter Mwangi. And in absentia, I wish to appreciate Eric Mutea, who is a part of the Matter Misericordia team, our contact person. We've been planning this together. So thank you very much. I'm Elizabeth Asasha. Until next time, take care of your mind, because it really matters. Goodbye.
My name is Jemima Kaigongi. I'm expecting my first baby. The Mater Hospital is my hospital. It's where I normally attend my clinics. They have very nice, good services, and they look deep in your well-being.
At Mater Hospital, we have a wide range of inpatient and outpatient services, including accidents and emergencies, offering services for both children and adults.
The journey with the gynecologist has been very good. And with Mater Hospital, there is nothing to be afraid of, especially when you are expectant.
Visit our website or any of our medical centers across the country. Mater Misericordia Hospital. You matter to us.